In this video, I will show you that maybe you are using microservices for the wrong reasons. Let's get started. Hi, my name is Alder Moraes, and if you want to learn more about Java, microservices, containers, and cloud-native related stuff, make sure to subscribe and hit the notifications so you don't miss the next contents. Alright, so if you are staying here, maybe you are in two conditions. First, you want to start with containers, start using containers, and two, you are already using containers. In both cases, I believe that you want to do it right and for the right reasons. I hope so. When I go to conference, it's common that I heard questions like how do I migrate from monolith to microservice? How do I start using microservice? How do I use the best practice for microservice? And usually I reply with a question, why do you want to use microservice anyway? And the most common answers that I get is 1. To scale my application, 2. To have smaller artifacts for deployment, and 3. To save memory. Why saving memory? Why some people think that using microservices will save memory? And once I was in a big company here in Brazil, and I heard the team, I asked this question to the team, and they replied, because our manager demanded. All right? Please don't do this. Okay, don't do just because your manager is demanding. All right? Let me tell you, all those reasons are conceptually wrong. All right? All those reasons are conceptually wrong. And why? Because you are trying to use microservices to scale software, but it was made to scale people. At this point, you are maybe uncomfortable on your chair, on your bed, on your couch, I don't know, or maybe you are frowning, or maybe you are mad at me, all right? So please, calm down, wait a little, be comfortable, just give me a few minutes and I will explain it to you, okay? I will make my point here. The reason why I'm saying that microservice is made to scale people is a foundation, is a concept, is a law. It's called Conway's Law. And I will even read it here so I make sure that's done properly. Any organization that designs a system will produce a design whose structure is a copy of the organization's communication structure. This was said by Mr. Melvin Conway in a paper written in 1967, a lot of time ago, and the link to the paper is down here in the description. I suggest you to read it, it's very interesting. Basically, what Mr. Conway is saying in the paper is that the software that your company builds is directly related to the way that your company communicates. But how Mr. Conway came to this conclusion? I know you are wondering, what the hell does it have to do with microservices? Hold on, you will get it, I promise. In this paper, he mentions a project where the team had 8 people and they needed to build 2 compilers, one for COBOL language and other for Algo language. And after some discussions, they realized that they needed to allocate 5 people for the COBOL compiler and 3 people for the Algo language. And at the end of the project, what they got was the COBOL compiler worked with 5 phases and the Algo compiler worked with 3 phases. So 5 people, 5 phases, 3 people, 3 phases. In the paper, you will see more examples of this human behavior when building software. So basically, a sociological observation ended up with a technological result. Interesting, right? Alright, back to microservice. What does it have to do with Conway's Law? Let's perform a mental exercise here, right? Imagine a company with three teams. One team is the DBA team, the other team is a UI team, and the other team is the middleware team. Those teams are organized around themselves. Alright, so the DBAs are working together, the UI devs are working together, and the middleware devs are working together. Then let me ask you three questions. 1. What the DBAs will deliver? 2. What the UI dev will deliver? And 3. What the middleware devs will deliver? It's quite obvious, right? The DBAs will deliver databases, the UI devs will deliver UI, and the middleware devs will deliver APIs, service, and things like that. This is called the siloed structure. It's a structure organized around silos. It's a DBA silo, it's the UI silo, it's the middleware silo, and other silos. And it is the classical structure of companies who build monolith applications. Now let's imagine another company, alright? It also has three teams, but they are quite differently from the other company. At this company, the team number 1 has a DBA, a UI dev, and a middleware dev. The team number 2 has also a DBA, a UI dev, and a middleware dev. And the team number 3, guess what, has also a DBA, an UI dev, and a middleware dev. These are what we call the cross-functional teams, teams with different functions inside the team. Now the one and only question for this company is what each team will deliver. The tendency of each one of these teams is to deliver what we call a self-contained application. It's an application who has its database, its UI, and its middleware in this case. Can this deliverable be considered a monolith? Well, yes, but a small monolith, a smaller monolith, because the team is smaller. The teams are smaller, okay? So they can't build something so big as they were building in monolith. So it's a smaller monolith. And as it is a smaller monolith, it needs to be more specific. It needs to be more specialized. It needs to address one single business task and to interact with other service, with other deliverables that also addresses other business tasks. And these other deliverables are done by other teams. Well, here we are. That is the so-called microservice. This concept of cross-functional teams and siloed teams and how those approaches brings us from monolith to microservice. This concept is very well explored in the famous article written by Martin Fowler. We will leave the link down here in the description. And this article is so important that many people put it on the timeline of microservice, on the history of microservice. They consider this article as a very important step on the technology. Okay, so far you know the Conway's law, you know that the way that your company communicates reflects in the way that it builds software. You know that siloed companies tend to produce monoliths, and you know that cross-functional companies tend to produce microservices. After all, what did I say in the beginning? That maybe you are thinking about microservice for the wrong reasons. Well, because another thing that I also said, and now I explain it, is because microservice is made to scale people and not software. If you look to companies who are well succeeded using microservice like Amazon, Netflix, Uber, Spotify, and so on, what they all have in common? When they started getting really big, they realized that they needed two things. They needed to scale their team management, and they need to do it without losing agility, actually increasing the agility. So they came to the conclusion that they needed smaller teams and self-managed teams. And those teams, to have more agility, they needed to be as decoupled as possible from each other for the sake of independence. And finally, those teams needed to be cross-functional and empowered enough to make the decisions related to technology, like choosing language, choosing databases, and so on. And yes, decoupled teams tend to generate decoupled service. Always log in. And suddenly it was born. Microservice, hey, you are here. Notice that it all started with a need. I need to rearrange the company structure. I need to distribute the teams. I need to increase the communication agility. In this scenario, microservice is inevitable. And if you don't have any of these needs, I'm sorry, but probably you don't even need microservice at all. Alright, so I hope I've made my point clear here, and I'm looking forward to see your comments. So don't hesitate to leave them here. And also please do not forget to subscribe and hit the notifications so you don't miss the next content. I will also leave here the microservice playlist of this channel so you can see more content about it. Alright, see you next time. Bye bye.